motion for the approval of the agenda?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. The ayes have it. We will now receive our invocation from Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm glad to see you back safe and sound, and thank you for going and doing the work
Thank you.
with the church mission group. Would you all let's bow in prayer, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you again tonight, and we do thank you for all the blessings that we have received every day of our lives and also today. I ask that you be with us during our meeting, let the communications be good, and let us listen well, make good decisions for our county, and just be with us, bless us all. Please bless every family that is represented in this room tonight. All these blessings we ask in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. I will now receive a motion for the approval of minutes work session January 21st.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Regular meeting January 27th.
So moved.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. The ayes have it. And special meeting February 4th.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. The ayes have it. We now have public presentations. We don't have any. So we are now down to number 6, public comments. Ms. Brown.
The first person to speak tonight is Mr. Moses Bell on the subject of fire service. Mr. Bell, you haven't been here in a while, so the 3-minute time limit is still in force.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Again, thank you, Fairfield County Council, Mr. Pope. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak to you. But I'm very sad that I need to. If I don't say nothing, we get nothing. If I do, Southeastern Volunteer Fire Department and I become the issue. The Fairfield County Fire Service continues to purchase trucks, utility vehicles, without a clear understanding of how, why, and who. What is the process? I don't know, and I serve on the Fire Commission. It appears to our fire department that it is done haphazardly, or is it strategic to ensure that we are left out? Our fire department has less water capacity than any fire department in the county, and we can't even get an almost new tanker of 1,500 gallons or more. Southeastern is currently using an old EMS truck that was already sent to salvage before we obtained it, and other departments get new utility vehicles without the Fire Commission knowing anything about it. We have a new paging system that Southeastern sometimes hears the calls and sometimes we do not, since the inception of it. We have told the fire leadership about it, nothing has been done. But you must remember, it is Southeastern at the lower end of the county. If you understand my language, the Advantage fire stations continue to receive equipment and improvements to their facility, but Southeastern gets nothing. Fairfield County Council removed the oversight responsibility of the Fire Commission, and that decision has produced chaos and favoritism. Please review the amount of money that goes to the equipment and facility improvement over the last 5 years, or even 10 years, by year and fire department. As a matter of fact, we have a firefighter that has not gotten their incentive, and it's the middle of February, with more staff than we've ever had. Yet another proposal, which I believe will be illegal, to further restrict incentives for fire service personnel. Again, it is very sad that the Southeastern Volunteer Fire Department have to come before council to ask for fairness and resources for our fire department. Again, if we say nothing, we get nothing. But if we do, we become the issue. However, we have decided our community, our people, is of the same value as other communities. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Jeff Schaefer, also on the subject of fire service.
Good evening, council, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why we don't have a fire pump, a hydrant located in most of the most of the community. Where we live, we don't have one fire pump. My house goes on fire, our trailer goes on fire, it burns. They can't get there in time. Does anybody address this? How does it get addressed? Who do I talk to? How do I make it happen? One fire pump. We don't have one, we call them Johnny pumps, but you know what I'm talking about, a hydrant, not one. That affects our insurance, that affects our lives. How do we get that done? That's the least time I've ever taken. Thank you.
Mr. Randy Bright on Drawdy and Economic Development.
Thank you. Randy Bright, District 1, Ridgeway. First on Drawdy Park, and I appreciate the progress that you have made on that so far, but I just hope that lessons learned are at least some of the following. S2, quality and professionalism. Have we learned our lesson there? Have we learned our lesson on no bid contracts? Have we learned our lesson on no contracts let to engineering firms who can only serve as middlemen, and I repeat, as an expensive middleman? In other words, why are we giving contracts to engineering firms when no one on their staff even has a degree germane to the project at hand? Just some of the many lessons I hope we learn. On economic development, high kudos to this council, Mr. Pope, Tiffany and her team for the recent announcement, another great recruitment job of bringing industry to this county. Nice job, thank you so much. I think, however, we need more focus to increase our economic potential with greater emphasis on our natural advantages. In other words, more diversification, low-hanging fruit for sustainable economic potential and development. And some of the things we're speaking about is timber, which I've spoke about before, and I know we've since made some movement there. I would like to see even more movement there. Alternative fuels, biomass and wind. Lots of government subsidies, big business, we have plenty of land. An outlet mall, strategically placed between Columbia and Charlotte off of I-77. Build an outlet mall and they will come. Everything else will follow. And we've got the land, we've got the location. Recreational tourism. Huge market in this United States. Not only our hunting and fishing, which we advertise on our website, but also biking opportunities. I see bikers on our roads all the time. And of course, the Adventure World, Carolina Adventure World, and other recreational opportunities that we can really turn this into recreational tourism. And then, of course, large retirement communities. All these would bring economic development and give us diversity of economic development. And when I speak of large retirement communities, I'm aware that we've made some overtures there and some efforts there, but I don't think we have quite the right concept or the right product for that, and I'm speaking at that at the second session today. So again, good job there. Let's diversify our economic efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all this time.
We are now down to number 9, Board and Disabilities. Commission minutes, disabilities and special needs. We got the minutes from those folks, also from the Rural Fire Board. We're now down to our county administrator's report. Mr. Pope.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, council. Good evening, citizens of Fairfield. And first, let me up front apologize. I had some dental surgery today, so I'll try to be succinct and to the point to be able to get through my report. The first item we have is a county spotlight, and kind of fortuitous for us after our announcement on Friday. Ms. Harrison is going to give a county spotlight, which happens to be on economic development.
Evening, members of council, Fairfield County citizens. Hope everyone's doing well this evening. My name is Tiffany Harrison. I am the director of the Fairfield County Economic Development Department, and here this evening to speak a little bit about what it is that I do every day. So the mission of the Economic Development Department is to provide an enhanced quality of life to all citizens in Fairfield County by fostering and encouraging responsible and sustainable economic development activities that promote job creation, support existing businesses, and strive to increase and diversify the county's tax base. The primary focus of what I do every day is looking at promoting job creation and then bringing in those industries that are creating the jobs and investing in this community so that then other services can be provided. So why are we looking to attract industry specifically? Well, South Carolina has a very long history of manufacturing. It's something that we do very well. We know how to train people to be successful in manufacturing environments. Also, industry, manufacturing, distribution, corporate offices, customer service centers, things like that, they provide value-added services that create a payroll. And those payrolls, those are the folks in the community, they get those jobs, they get a paycheck every week, and then they go out and they support the local retail environment. They go out and they're able to procure goods and services. So that is why a large focus is on attracting industry into the county. So let's talk a little bit about how we're doing that. If any of you all have had the opportunity to hear our Secretary of Commerce, Secretary Bobby Hitt, talk, he has had a large focus on what he calls setting the table. So we're going to use this whole analogy tonight of setting the table as we kind of walk through what it is I do every day. So just a couple of quotes. Secretary Hitt says, if you want businesses to come, you have to have a place for them to locate. Government's role is to set the table. We must create inventory to be ready when companies come calling. So what is inventory? It's property that has water, sewer, and transportation access. Without this key infrastructure, then businesses will go someplace else. Let's talk a little bit about Fairfield County's table. So for the last few years, Fairfield County has focused on very much on setting the table. Workforce training is a very critical component. We have to have folks that have the skills to be able to take the jobs that are available in the sectors that we're attracting. So the county has partnered with Midwest Technical College to put a quick job center in Winsboro. We also work very closely with our partners at Ready SC, South Carolina Works, folks like MEBA, that's the Midlands Education Business Alliance. And then I am also on the board of the RECAB, which is the Regional Education Center Advisory Board. That group was created by legislation back a few years ago to start looking at how can we, as a state, be successful to train people to be successful for future jobs. The second piece of the Fairfield County table is that critical product development component that the Secretary Hitt talks a lot about. So what has the county done to set its table from that standpoint? And we've developed the Fairfield Commerce Center. That's that 684-acre industrial park that we just announced that MAG's going to locate in. And then, of course, we've built a speculative building at the Walter Brown Industrial Park. The first speculative building program was very successful. It sold, and so the county was without building product on the I-77 corridor. The decision was made to move forward with the second building on that I-77 corridor. And then infrastructure development. You have to have the roads, water, and sewer in order to support industry. And so the county has been very focused on creating a sustainable plan for growth that includes a water and sewer master plan. Hazen and Sawyer, they were procured to actually do that plan for us. They are about 6 months in the plan as we speak, and they're working very diligently to come out with an, again, full water and sewer master plan serving the entire I-77 corridor. So now let's talk about, again, so I'm using the analogy. So let's call this dinner, right? So there's different dinners that you have. You can do fast food. You can have a really nice, long, dinner where it's a very fine dining dinner. But basically, how does dinner start? How does the guest come to the table? Well, the guest, again, this is industry that we're talking about in business that wants to locate here. So they have a need for a new location. And so they either use their own staff or they will use a professional site developer and go out and start identifying areas that meet their needs. And then typically, again, depending on who they use and how the search is performed, they'll typically submit a request for information either to the state or to the county regional, to the regional economic development offices or to the county. And those requests for information, they usually ask questions about your water sewer capacity, your access to transportation, all kinds of questions, information about your demographics. So they can vary very much, but typically you can have your basic request, including all of the information I've just talked about. So this is where I spend a good bit of time, filling out that information, responding. So that RFI is completed, that request for information. And then if you're lucky, you make it to the short list, and you're selected for a site visit. So they're actually going to show up to dinner at this time, right? They're going to come and sit down, and they're going to see your community. And then again, if you continue to be lucky and they want to stay around for a little while, then you start doing your incentive negotiation. And hopefully you're very successful with that, and a decision's made, and then an announcement at that time. So that's sort of the process that we go through with a typical economic development deal. So up until the point that we actually get to announcement, something that you folks are very much aware of, confidentiality is critical in these projects. Projects are given code names either by the company or by the state. If the state just happens to know who they are, a lot of times the state doesn't even know when they first start working with the projects. And the EDOs, the Economic Development Offices, we are completely bound by confidentiality. You all saw us bring before you Project Compact. We were able to actually announce that it was BOMAG when the company was ready to announce that it was BOMAG. Why so secret? Because these companies, they live in a very competitive environment. We know that. They have to move very quickly. They have to get ahead of their competition. They have to make decisions before their competition knows what they're doing. So it's absolutely critical that we maintain that confidentiality in order so that the companies that are looking here know that they're going to be protected, and that the information will be out when the time is appropriate. So again, everything is confidential typically up until that announcement point. So let's talk about some recent successes. We've got some really great successes to celebrate tonight. VC Summer, I think that's over in the western part of the county. Unit 2 is well underway. There's 3,000 construction workers out there. There's going to be another 800 full-time jobs associated with VC Summer. Wow, what a great win for Fairfield County. So we've announced 620 jobs since August of 2013, 500 in Winsboro. We're talking about bringing people into the community to create, that payroll is created in the community, which supports the retail. Having 500 people working in Winsboro, that's going to move a lot of people through Winsboro, support a lot of our retail businesses here. And then of course we just announced 120 jobs at Fairfield Commerce Center. But a couple of other things that have maybe gone by a little bit unnoticed. We had a building out at the Walter Brown Industrial Park that was known as the Prime Metals Building, and that's been largely vacant for a while. Midlands Biofuels has a processing operation there. Well, Innovative Plastics is also co-located there, so that building's completely full now. We also had the former McCott building, which Lane Becker owned at the back of the Walter Brown Industrial Park. We now have a tenant in that, and we will be making an announcement and doing a ribbon cutting with those folks here in a few months when they've got their office all set up. So we've had some great successes to celebrate. The one that everybody's kind of curious about right now, to give everyone an update on this one. So Element Electronics, we know that they announced 500 jobs in August. 2,150 applications were submitted for those 500 jobs. Now that could be multiple people submitting multiple applications, but 2,150, that's significant. That right there shows that there are people that are willing to go to work, that want to go to work in Fairfield County. Element was absolutely thrilled. The building outfits are nearing completion. The first 2 of 6 production lines are being installed as we speak. You guys have probably seen more and more cars. As you drive down 321 now, you see more and more cars out there. So they expect to hire the first production group in March, and production will begin in March is what the plan is currently. So here's a picture. This is kind of looking from the mezzanine office down into the facility. You can see the first 2 lines are starting to be installed there. So what am I going to leave you all with this evening? We've been in a deep recession since 2008. The economy is recovering. The table has been set. We've realized some successes. According to our Secretary of Commerce, nothing creates momentum like successes along the way. So we look forward to celebrating many more successes. Council, thank you for everything y'all do to support economic development, and I'm very happy to answer any questions that any of you may have.
Mr. Chairman? Just a few things, I guess, while we're talking about economic development, and certainly while we have an audience, I think that it's very important that we need to mention it. Tiffany, you can chime in anytime you like, but one of the things is, based on the state statute and what we have to offer incentives, you have to have a minimum investment of $2 million. That is one thing, of course, that was lowered, that threshold was lowered a number of years ago. It used to be a minimum of a $5 million investment in order for the county to even consider a fee in lieu of taxes for a particular industry that were to come into the county. So lots of times when people ask, well, you know, what about a small mom or pop's type of operation or something like that? That is why you have to have that minimum threshold in order to offer state incentives. And this is all spelled out in state law as to, you know, what you have to abide by. The other thing is, and normally we don't respond as quickly, but I think it's kind of fortuitous that we do this, but also when you talk about recreational activities or commercial activities, primarily the law was set up for industrial and manufacturing type investment. Commercial investments is actually, it's really a kind of an outcome of you actually recruiting industrial and manufacturing jobs. Once you create a payroll and actually you have people who can add to your payroll in your community, then you create wealth in the community where people will have extra income to be able to go to restaurants or maybe open a business to be able to support things. So we're looking at the genesis of creating or kind of augmenting those things that are in the community, but you have to start at some point. Most communities, if you are of a certain size, you have other different tools, things like, for instance, a hospitality tax or a tourism tax, where you can generate dollars to do things like recreational economic development or other types of commercial development. But commercial development and those things aren't what our state law is actually supported. That's not what it supports. And so that's why some people are sometimes maybe confused about, well, what tools does the county have? We have to put other things in place if we want to do those different types of economic development activities, which there clearly are economic development activities, but different things of what the county or municipalities can do, because actually some things, actually municipalities or towns are better suited to do than counties are. And so basically you have to use, you know, your toolbox for those things. And so those were just a few things. And did you mention the non-disclosure? I can't remember if you...
I don't know that I specifically did say that, but yes.
And just wanted to just kind of, just to echo even more specifically, when we actually speak to companies, I mean, we actually literally have to sign a non-disclosure statement, which actually bounds us that we cannot, or even people who we communicate with are under those same things. So it's not a matter of the county attempting to be secret about something because you necessarily want to be, but you have to be, as long as you're dealing with the companies under the confidentiality means. So we just wanted to just explain that, to kind of explain the process. I remember when I first came along, we had mentioned that sooner or later we would have either a work session, and certainly we can go more into detail, but this is kind of like a cursory review of how we go about and why we do the things we do through economic development.
Thank you.
Any questions? Appreciate what you do.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Mr. Chairman, Council, now going on to the agenda. I don't know if Mr. Plain. Okay, but under item B, these are the recommendations of the Administration and Finance Committee regarding fire service request of action. If you recall, several months ago, of course, we re-established the committee process in Fairfield County. This was actually our first committee meeting where we had several requests that came to the committee for action. The first item for full council's consideration is item number 1. This was a fire service request for tire purchase. This can be found on pages 2 through 7. The NFPA safety standards recommend the tires be replaced after 7 years. I think, of course, working with the Association of Counties and through our risk management, the last replacement on our tires were in 2007. Half of the funds, $40,000, are budgeted in the 2013-14 budget, and we're requesting the other half, or Mr. Hill will be requesting that. Of course, that will have to be approved in the budget process, but for the other portion for the tire purchase. This recommendation was unanimous, and that action stands before the council for consideration of passage, and that's the purchase of tires for the entire fire service.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I also wanted to mention, if in case there are any questions, of course, Mr. Hill is here to assist with answering any specific questions that the council may have. The second item was a fire service request for a training room expansion, which can be found on pages 8 through 10. Current classroom, which is a 14 by 28 with table and chairs, barely accommodating 20 students. The expansion would help students from being in a tight, close environment and give room to do more hands-on training. We're requesting to add an additional space to make this a 20 by 28. This is going to be a cost of approximately $18,000, and the recommendation for this was unanimous also.
Move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays, same sign. Ms. Pope.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 3, this is a fire service request to purchase a replacement fire truck. Can be found on pages 11 through 13. This request is to purchase a new pumper for the Midford Fire Department. The new pumper will be an additional pumper in the station. The existing pumper will also become a pumper service truck. The current service truck has over 126,000 miles and has been taken out of service. I believe the engine blew in the, is that correct, Mr. Hill?
No, the engine was in
The other one? Okay. This purchase is $300,000. Those budgeted funds were approved, and probably more than likely those funds will be encumbered for the purchase of the truck, because based upon the time when you order and when the truck come in, will more than likely be in the new fiscal year, but we would actually encumber those funds.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays by the same sign. Ms. Pope.
Item number 4, the fire service request for a service utility truck, pages 14 through 16. To replace a 1983 pickup truck, this was the one, I'm sorry, that has the blown engine. Currently used as a brush truck. This utility truck is needed to put the brush truck back in service, approved in the 2013-14 budget. The cost of this request is $36,343. Of course, this is based upon the state contract price, and the recommendation on this was unanimous as well.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
All in favor, signify. Yes, ma'am.
I think they also told us they're going to take the equipment that's on that truck and replace it onto the new truck, so we don't expend funds for that.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
What size truck is this we're talking about, Mr. Pope?
I'll ask Mr. Hill if you could.
It'd be a F-350 Ford. Yes, a one-ton truck.
Any more questions, Mr. Marshall?
Which station is receiving this truck?
Mitford Station 3.
So it's getting two trucks?
Well, it wasn't going to be that way, but when that truck blew its engine, that truck's been out of service for over a year. They haven't had a brush truck up there, and we need to get that brush truck back in that area.
I was just wondering, Mr. Chairman, are we following the protocol of circulating? We said each year we would try to get around to various stations. It seemed like this is kind of off from what I can remember, but that's one station getting 2 fire trucks. I understand the problem here. That's what I was asking. You agree with that?
Say what now?
Midford's getting both of these
Yes.
trucks due to.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. The ayes have it, Mr. Brown. Ms. Pope.
Mr. Chairman, Council, the next request, and this is for the entire fire service, but the fire service request for the purchase of fire suppression foam. The purchase of fire fighting or fire suppression foam Foam is needed when water is ineffective, of course, especially in some of the areas of the county where we have certain type of probable things, even along the interstate and whatnot, and needing this. Each pumper should have a minimum of 10 gallons on the trunk, on the truck. Some trucks do not have this amount. The shelf life of this type of foam is 25 plus years, and foam has not been purchased in over 7 years. This is a $20,000 fiscal impact, and this was also a unanimous decision from council, and also the procurement department on this one, because the fire marshal had wanted to make sure that we actually have the foam that has the best shelf life, because of course we keep this on the truck for a while once it's in stock, and of course we'll make sure that we check and bid those pricing to make sure we get the best product and also the best pricing for what we need for the fire service.
Okay.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Any questions? None, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. The ayes have it, Mr. Brown.
Chairman, Council, item number 6 is this is a fire service request to purchase property. This request is to purchase approximately 1.6 acres of land for future site relocation of the Ridgeway Fire Department. The existing fire department sits 4 feet off of US Highway 21. There is a safety factor entering and exiting this building with large apparatus. No room for training or meetings. Meetings are held in the bay of the existing facility. The fire department has outgrown this building. There is no room to expand. The administrator is recommending approval with condition to allow the administrator to negotiate and bring a contract back for council's consideration.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this one?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I would like to say that we've talked about this location right downtown Ridgeway. I know ever since I've been on council, the fact that they have to have a smaller truck for that location. They don't really have the proper turnaround area as well, being right there on Main Street, and also just the danger of coming around that curve and having that truck trying to go in and back into that site on Main Street right there in Ridgeway as well. So I think it behooves us to try to find another location for that site.
And your proposal, Mr. Pope, is to bring back a recommendation, a recommended price for that piece of property?
Yes, sir, for council
That's where we are.
consideration, of course, and if council approves that, that would have to be done by 3 readings in a public hearing.
Okay. All right. Everybody understand that? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. The ayes have it, Mr. Brown. Vote.
Mr. Chairman, the last request, this request is to construct a burn room and rescue training facility. The request is to construct a burn room and search and rescue training facility. The facility will give volunteers opportunity to the training environment which they will be responding to. The training center will be an asset not only to the fire service but also to emergency services. We have funds appropriated in the FY 2012-2013 budget. Other county projects actually kind of exceeded this one with priorities. We rolled that $35,000 over, and actually some of this work will be accomplished in-house. Of course, our fire service is almost basically 100% volunteer, and we feel as though that this will certainly be an enhancement to allow our folks to be able to have the necessary training that they need, where we don't have to necessarily get slots at the Fire Training Academy. And so we would seek your favorable approval on this. This was voted on unanimously by the committee.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I'm not up on fire service. I'm so grateful for everybody who participates in that. But it's my understanding that more training has been required in the last couple of years than has ever been required at these guys and gals who go out and do this on a basis. So anything that we can do on site without having to expend money by sending them to the academy, we're better off.
Any other comments? Mr. Marshall?
I have just a question, Mr. Chairman, since we're on the issue of, fire departments. I know for the last 10 years, we've been trying to purchase land over in the Jenkinsville area because of the dilapidated condition of our fire station. And I see we're about to either looking at purchasing new land and working on other fire stations and purchasing trucks. Seems like our district been put on the back burner. When it bring me up to par, like how did we get dropped off the scale of, we've been trying to negotiate the last 10 years to get land from SC&G. Other properties, these 3 different properties. And where are we in terms of that? No one seemed to bring an update with SC&G about our fire station. We got holes in our driveway, the building's pretty much dilapidated. You really can't hold any really good community meetings in it. And seems like we dropped the ball on Western Fairfield.
We, Mr. Marshall, we appropriated half of the funds to do that building with this year. The other half was supposed to come about next year, and we have been slower than we should have been through no fault of our own, but SCANA has been real slow in dealing with us on that property. But Mr. Pope does have an update on it, so Mr. Pope.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'm sorry, I don't want to mess up protocol, but would we want to carry this one and then respond to that, or?
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. The ayes have it. All right, Mr. Pope.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Well, first out, I just wanted to mention to the council, Mr. Hill and I think it was 2 weeks ago, I hope I have my timing correct, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, we went out and actually we visited every fire station in the county, and where he wanted to give me a personal look at every fire station that we have. And first out I will say is that we are pretty spread out. I know we have a rural county, but you don't get that perspective until you actually go out and see actually each one and how far they are out in the community. But in specific with Jenkinsville, we have been working with Ms. Morgan Harrell, who is now the SE&G representative. I think prior to Morgan, Richard Fletcher was that person and had been dealing with the county. Of course, because of where or the impact area that station is located, it's in an impact area, and of course, SE&G has to get everything approved through FERC, which is the federal organization that approves everything. We got, I think it was last week, some preliminary drawings. I think Mr. Hill and also Mr. Tanner from EMS has been out and looked at the site. So everything is in work. We finally got the lease agreement a few weeks back as well. So everything is actually in the works. Councilman Masseria, that's actually a station on board that we are planning for. I went out and actually looked at that station as well. So I wouldn't say at all that has been placed on the back burner, but there are a couple of logistical things that the county cannot do without actually the approval of SE&G and FERC before we can actually locate that station there. But that's in the works, and we're working on that. I know one of the questions also that was asked during the public input period about there not being fire hydrants in particular places. Of course, in order for you to have a fire hydrant, you have to have fire suppression lines. And of course, you have to have a certain amount of water capacity to be able to do that. But our fire service actually works on a lot of different levels because we have dry hydrants and other things that we use in order to take water out of ponds and other areas to be able to have water on tankers to, in essence, be able to supplement water in case there are fires. So we use those things, and all of those things go into the bottom line of what the ISO rating is for the county. So all of those things we try to work to make sure that the citizens get the best ISO rating possible and how we actually improve those services. So we're looking at all of those areas. Also, the gentleman that asked about Southeastern, that's something I need to talk to Mr. Hill about, just kind of find out, but we're clearly looking at that. But certainly the men and women that volunteer out in the county. I mean, the backbone of our fire service is our volunteers, and so we want to do everything to support that, because I can tell you, in working in urban environments, when you ever have to look at paid personnel, the costs go up astronomically when you have to have paid personnel. So certainly we want to thank and commend all those people who volunteer their time and efforts in order to keep our fire insurance premiums down in the county. We want to do that and encourage more volunteers as long as we can to make sure that we get good quality fire service at the most effective cost.
I just want to thank you for that, Mr. Pope. I just want to say, I did say on the back burner, because it's been close to 10 years we've been working on this project, so it's getting closer to fruition. For the citizens, I can appreciate that. Thank you.
Right. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just tell the citizens out here that most of our fire stations were actually built between 20 and 30 years ago. At that time, the county allocated $20,000 per fire station. And these stations have had good upkeep over the years, but there's just a lot of them are wearing out and needs some work done to them. And the fire stations have done a lot to keep these fire stations up and running, and we appreciate that. But most of them, like I said, are over 20 years old, and they use them for quite a few things. But they've been great assets to the community for a long time, so we do need to keep a good eye on them. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I also want to say is just to also let citizens know, I mean, we do have some very good quality equipment out in the rural area, because I can tell you some communities certainly don't share with the quality of some of the equipment that we have, and we're trying to make sure that we replace the equipment that needs to be replaced, but we also stay up with current standards throughout the fire service. But we do have quality equipment for our volunteers. I know Ms. Till, as far as getting things turnout gear, because we have the major interstate running through our community, lots of things that are required. So we should also be proud of the equipment, a lot of equipment that we have in the fire service as well. Mr. Chairman, hopefully finishing up quickly my report, just Girardi Park wanted you, the council to know and the public to know. We've also, the staff, we've solicited outside engineering work to be able to assess information that we're getting back from S2 Engineering, and we'll be reviewing that information both as to reasons, of course, for the failure and actually remedy as well. Of course, at the last meeting, I think it was Mr. Brown had made a motion to also to be able to inspect other work that had been done as well. So once we procure a contract with someone, we'll begin that scope of work as well. So all of that is underway, and we hopefully in the next coming weeks we'll have all of that in place and bring back the public recommendations for remedy regarding Girardi Park. In regard, Mr. Chairman, I certainly wanted to echo Ms. Harrison. Yeah, sure. I think Mr. Anderson's going to pull up pictures here, and I can just chat while he's pulling those up. But regarding BOMAG, our announcement on Friday, BOMAG is a producer of compaction equipment, milling machines, asphalt pavers, and reclaimer stabilizers for road building and other construction markets. We will be establishing its North America headquarters in Fairfield County. One of the things that is very important about establishing a headquarters for any large manufacturer like BOMAG is it gives you a leg up to be able to recruit other companies that are under that umbrella. And that's the thing that we're so excited about, of having an anchor like that in our industrial park. And I can tell you, we're the envy of, that's me and the Gov. I like that one. I do need to apologize to Councilman Perry, though. I did steal his line about liquid sunshine before the meeting, because it was pretty soggy out there. But BOMAG is going to have up to 120 jobs in 5 years, resulting in a payroll of $7.3 million. Their investment is $18.2 million. They're going to have a 28,000 square foot building. As I mentioned, they're going to be an anchor tenant. The first lot in our industrial park there. Plans to break ground in March of this year. But BOMAG has a staff of over 2,200 employees to support its global dealer network for over 500 dealers. So we're really looking to leverage everything that we can to be able to maximize their presence here in this community. So we're very pleased with them locating here, and certainly hope for more of that to come. At least that's what I mentioned to the governor. We'd like seeing her. We want to put her on schedule for like every 6 months, so something like that. So at least we hope that's the case. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That completes my report.
Okay. We're now down to the clerk of council's report. Ms. Brown.
Members of council, I don't have a report tonight.
Okay. Now down to item 15, second public comment. Ms. Brown.
Mr. Moses Bell on fire service. You declined to come?
I did want.
Oh, you did? You didn't intend to sign the second time? Okay, thank you. Mr. Jeff Schaefer on ethics.
Can I have Mr. Moses 3 minutes added to mine? I'm serious. Before you start the timer? Ah, good. Let me just get organized. Okay. In the South Carolina Handbook for County Government, there are several chapters covering the principles of public service and ethics. And I quote, "Public servants should treat their office as a public trust, only using the powers of resources of public office to advance public interest and not to attain personal benefits or pursue any other private interests incompatible with the public good." Not to mention, it goes on to mention that says, moral obligations and formal codes of conduct and principal accountability. Public servants should assure the government is conducted openly, effectively, equitably, honorably, in a manner that permits the citizenry to make informed judgments and hold government officials accountable. No one is on a witch hunt. Certainly, we don't have any more witches in Fairfield County, and I'm almost certain that the hunting season for witches is only permitted on election day. Council members that had to be sued by a class action to retrieve money paid to them in error and deemed illegal by the Attorney General's office go strictly against principles of public service. Council members who have been accused and charged and will be found guilty by the State Ethics Board should resign immediately. If not for their own self-respect, then do it for us, the public taxpayer in Fairfield County. We don't need a house of scandal any more than we need a Drury Park's wall of disaster, or the embarrassment of a porn star fan administering the county. And now his subordinates, who stated then, "Let's keep him on," are now saying we knew nothing about what was going on as the administrator. Sorry, those excuses are for amateurs and it doesn't fly. We elected you to serve us, not yourselves, and it's obvious that more than a few of you are incapable of performing your duties without making excuses or continuing to back the bus over Mr. Heinley time and time again. We would like to see you take responsibility and step up and say, "I made a huge error in judgment, and I think I should resign from my actions." That will at least show us you have some self-respect and some character left. But if you feel it's mandatory to keep putting mileage reimbursements in that the IRS will not accept as legitimate, and you're not concerned about more ethics charges, then you must feel it's necessary to sit on your throne at these meetings and continue to tell us more lies, more excuses, more self-absorption. I was, I am, I used to be. Let me tell you, you're only as good as you are today. And in this illustrious title as councilperson will be removed, as I've told you previously. Your photo in the hall will be taken from the chambers and moved to a designated hall of shame next to Mr. Heinley, whose celebrity will now exceed his ability to find another job other than working for Penthouse as a delivery boy.
Mr. Randy Bright on the subject of large retirement communities.
Thank you. My intention this evening is to raise awareness considerably based upon previous action and based upon previous comments concerning large retirement community recruitment for this county. Huge potential. A 2012 USDA study concluded retiree migration will be massive through 2020 into non-metro areas, i.e. Fairfield. The proactive counties will, quote, realize this cohort can bring significant new money into a county's economy and boost development opportunities. In fact, the latest studies conducted by the University of Arkansas, the University of North Carolina, the U.S. Department of Economic Development, and the American Association of Retirement Communities show that amenity-seeking baby boomer retirees are a better economic stimulant than attracting traditional manufacturing jobs. Let me repeat, are a better economic stimulant than attracting traditional manufacturing jobs. Specifically, the University of Arkansas study concluded, in-migrating retirees make substantial contributions to local community and to the state. New jobs are created. New homes are built. Retirees stabilize a business cycle because most retiree income is not cyclical. Retirees increase state and local tax revenue. Retirees enhance the local property tax bases. Retirees' investments increase the capital pool. Retirees are a clean industry. Retirees diversify the economy. A recent study by the City of Houston concluded active adult communities historically have less impact on municipalities than their counterparts by contributing positively to the local economy and to its residents. The average demand levels for active adult communities compared to other communities are much less. In other words, they cost less, but considering that a typical large retirement community starting house price is over $200,000, subtracting even a homestead exemption for that, you still have absolute minimum, $150,000 tax base per unit, and that's compared to our current median home price of less than $100,000. Huge benefit to us. According to a recent study by Georgia Southern University, wage and job levels have been found to increase when retirement populations increase, particularly when large retirement communities are located in the area. Also increasing are the level of financial services, the level of medical services, the level of transportation services, the level of dining and entertainment. And if you look at the individual counties that have the highest penetration of retirement communities, York, Beaufort, and Dorchester, oh, by the way, they also have the highest economic standard rated in the state, among the highest. They also have the number 1, 2, and number 6 standing ranking of quality of life and public health in all of South Carolina, where we rank 33rd. Their education numbers are off the chart. Some of the best schools in the state are in these counties. So then, I'm done. Okay. Thank you. You have some documentation I gave Ms. Brown, and all of you should have that from me.
That ends the public comment number 2.
Okay. We're now at county council time. The council member would comment.
Chairman, I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
I want to address Mr. Schaefer's concern. I noticed he didn't call any names about the officials with the ethics. But I know I'm one of them that was on the TV. They left out 4 others. But you say I should resign immediately. Never happened. Beat me at the ballot box in November.
I think you should resign.
Because I'm not going to resign.
Ethics should resign.
Well, you wait and see.
Well, you're ethically wrong.
I also noticed that you left out Miss Robinson off the ethics comment. Is that because she's a member of your Tea Party group?
Ms. Robinson?
Yeah, Miss Robinson, Councilman Robinson. Exactly.
The ethical group? The
Oh,
ethical
yeah,
group
she got the same paperwork I got.
party?
So let me,
But, and to all your members,
You may not.
okay.
Oh, we get to listen.
yeah, you get to listen.
Okay.
You get to talk to Miss Robinson since she started this whole route from District 2, all her neighbors, started this whole mess. But if you waiting on me to resign, it'll be a cold day and you know where. Have a good night.
Let's all leave.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. good. That was good.
I attended the announcement.
No conversation.
I attended the announcement on Wednesday of our new company. We were in a new building down there that, until 2 weeks prior to that, I knew nothing about it. I didn't know it existed. I'd like a show of hands of just how many on this council knew that building existed.
All right.
Okay? I'd just like to know how you found out and we didn't, the rest of us. Many months ago, the council chair advised there would be no committees. All issues for discussion would be held in a work session. I'd like to see the minutes of the work sessions for the following items that were discussed. The building that I'm just speaking of at the Commerce Center, the sign at the Commerce Center, the building of the rec football field, the spec building at Walter Brown 2, the voter registration building, the Hahn building with its improvements, and the probation and parole building. Who knew about any of these projects? How is it that I missed every work session when each of these items were discussed? Could it be that there were no work sessions on any of these items? We constantly ask the companies of Fairfield County to hire local citizens. How many of our local contractors were used in any of these projects? Any asphalt contractors, painters, roofers, construction workers, brick and block layers? We have a procurement code that has guidelines. And it says we are to foster effective, broad-based competition with the free enterprise system. And this will provide for increased public confidence in the procedures that we follow. We're to provide safeguards for the maintenance of a procurement and disposal system of quality and integrity. When bidding, there should be 90 days for goods, services, or construction when the estimated value of the total procurement is in excess of $25,000, and it must be formally advertised. Public notice for every procurement in excess of $10,000 is to be advertised in the general publication of a newspaper. For competitive purchases that are over $25,001 or more, solicitation of formal bids will be required from a minimum of 3 qualified sources. And then those competitive bids are required when procurement is anticipated again to exceed the $25,000 bid. Unbudgeted items over $25,000 will require council approval. And all of these other things, the way it's presently written, says that it has to be approved by the administrator or county council. I would like to know who authorized the construction of these buildings and all the expenses associated therewith. It is past time that we address all of these issues, because none of us need to be thrown under the bus over any of these matters. Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Chairman, at the beginning of this meeting, well, during this meeting, you look at all 7 of those items that we voted on. And that came to us through the Finance Committee. And I've been saying this now for 2 years or 3 years, well, 10 years, that we need to go back to our use of committees. Right now we've got 2. I truly believe we need to go back to the 7, because normally if you got 7 committees, 3 people on each committee, and most items have to go through at least 2 committees or 3 committees before it makes it out here to the floor. That we will have plenty of eyes looking at every item, and we all know what's going on throughout the county with expenditures and how county government is being run. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask Mr. Pope if you would kind of respond to that as to why or that he was kind of a contract employee. You and Mr. Anderson, please, the gentleman with S2, and I think that had happened before with an engineer where we kind of used him for a lot of projects. Could I ask either one of you to explain that, please?
I apologize, I don't know what the question is.
The S2 gentleman, we're being blamed for using him for a lot of projects, but from what I understand, he was under contract with the county to do those projects. And I know before S2, we had another gentleman that, Mr. Dan Dennis, that was used for all the projects because he was kind of under contract. And I just would like some explanation, if maybe Mr. Anderson, if you are not real.
Ms. Kinley, I guess my only response can be I can tell you what I observed in looking back at prior information. There is a contract for S2 Engineering, and there was, I guess, a list of engineers that were chosen to do certain work for the county. S2 Engineering was one of those. I cannot tell you specifically, not from documents, at least in writing, of how those things were, but it appeared as though that there were engineers that were chosen to do certain work, certain projects. All of them were not necessarily procured in the traditional way, but selected from a list of contractors to do various work for the county. I know we've gotten a voluminous amount of FOIA requests, and we've given all the documentation that the staff has. As I mentioned to you and council, all that I can speak to is what we've done since July regarding the procurement process. We've followed that and instituted several things and bringing things back to council for your purview. But you are correct, S2 was selected in a similar manner as was other contractors to do various works for the county.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, I have one more comment.
Yes, sir.
For those in the audience who are not familiar with a lot of S2 engineering firm is a black firm. So some of the blacks probably can relate. You'll get the picture. There's a black firm, the only black firm in the county. And who's all complaining about him? Happen to be all white Fairfield County citizens.
You're making it a racial issue?
Yeah, no, the issue's been made about race.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
No comment.
Hit it again.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that not out of line? You can throw him out. That is out of line.
Would you leave, please?
I am.
Thank you.
When are you gonna leave, Mr. Burke?
Who did that question come from?
You're looking at me. If it came from me, you would have heard me say it.
You made the comment?
I sure did.
You need to leave too.
You ought to
Thank
come
you.
on with me
Thank
though.
you.
If I leave, you should go.
Officer, would you escort this gentleman out of the room, please?
That's a good to do.
Now. Any more comments? Yes, ma'am.
All I have to say about supposedly having a contractor, I don't think any one person has the right to expend all those funds and then never brought back to council for vote. Even in the procurement code, we have to live by some of those matters that I just addressed. Also, it says that I'm elected to set policy and make sure funds are expended properly. I can't do that if one person has the right to go out and spend millions of dollars on buildings that I never know a thing about. And I think from this day forward, we need to cease that policy. When I came back on, and I'll tell you, I've been back since, I've been back since, I've forgotten what year. But anyway, 09, thank you. But a matter came up in July of 2012 that had to do with planning and zoning. And our administrator came before us and passed out a sheet of paper that says, this is the way I'm going to reconstruct planning and zoning. I asked the question, so, it looks as though there's 3 new employees. Did we put it in the budget? And the answer was, don't worry about that, I found the money. Then I look at the council and I suggest that they just set policy by changing and restructuring that entire department. And 2 members on this council told me, oh, we gave him that right back in while you were gone. The code does not allow us to give an administrator the right to have carte blanche to do whatever they choose to do. We still have to sit here and be responsible to all of you, everybody that elects us, and then even outside that. I feel a responsibility to 24,000 people. And I think this council up here needs to realize why you were elected. And we need to get this addressed, and we need to get this procurement policy updated ASAP. Because this, in my opinion, has to cease all of this funding and spending that's going on. We have employees sitting in here right now who have more responsibility and don't have responsibility, but they've taken it and spent our money, and we didn't know about it. I was appointed several years ago when I came back to be ex officio of the library. At that point, I think funds had already been earmarked for them to go in and redo the library. It's over 30 years old, had never had anything done to it. As I sat down there on that committee, I watched that entire board look at everything the contractor was doing, even to selecting the carpet. And I thought the other day, I said, what's wrong with this picture? These are people that we appoint who are being responsible and sitting as a board and making those decisions. And then we have people who out here who are spending millions. I think they had $300-something thousand to redo that library and did an excellent job with it. But I'm just tired of us not accepting our responsibility up here. Thank you.
Anything else?
Go into executive session to receive legal advice.
I have a comment before we do that. Ms. Kimley, I have sat here and listened to a lot of rhetoric, trying to appease people, trying to get reelected, evidently. We do a budget every year. And everybody that's sitting in this council, everybody that sits on this council votes on that budget. Every last person up here. So for people, for us to have buildings that they've never heard about, projects that we've never heard about, things that we've never done because we didn't have committees in place. When we had committees in place, there was a lot more going on than should have been going on from these 7 members, because in a lot of cases, things never got back to the 7 members. They were kind of compelled to stay pretty close to the cuff to when we had committees. And that's the reason we did away with committees, so that all 7 could listen to the same thing at the same time. And it seemed to make sense to me and the 4 or 5 people I think that voted to do away with having 7 committees. Now, at any point in time, any council member wants to bring up that we go back to 7 committees, they can request that of me. I'll have Mr. Pope and Ms. Brown put it on the agenda, and we'll vote for it. If the majority of the council wants to have 7 committees, we'll have 7 committees. That's as simple as that. But if they don't have, what we need to do is work within the confines of what we have structured and try to do what we need to do, but not at the cost of the other council members. This was throw the council under the bus night. Now, Ms. Kinley, I'll receive your motion now. Yes, sir.
I think the only problem with this is the process of how things have been happening. Yes, we voted at budget time to fund so much building. But when we did that, we expected purchasing and finance and building and zoning all to be involved and all to be carrying out our policy to make sure that all of that is being done right. And if all of that would have been done right, if planning and zoning would have been inspecting walls or buildings that were being built, if council knew that RFPs and contracts and solicitations for bidding architectural services and engineering services were out there, we would have known a little bit more about it. We have not known any of that. So just because you approve a budget in June does not mean you're supposed to know the everyday workings of the expenditure of those funds over a 365-day period if nobody's communicating with you. So just because you approve a budget doesn't mean one thing. All that does is says that the money is there to be spent. How it is to be spent is up to us. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I feel compelled to at least say a few things tonight, and I just want to start by saying I've made this comment before that I sat out there in the audience with you all, where you all sat right now, many years ago, and I didn't start coming to council meetings when I was elected as a councilman. And one of the main reasons why I decided that I wanted to serve on council was because when I was sitting out there, I didn't feel like at that time that council was being open and honest with the citizens at that time. And I can clearly share with you, it started to hit home. You can call it my backyard or whatever you want to call it. But as you start to look closely at council, I was not satisfied. I don't mind telling you that. And I don't want to, it sounds like I'm hearing a lot of us up here tonight kind of wanting to relieve ourselves of accountability of what has happened over the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, we can spin that any kind of way we want to. For me, it's not about the election. I mean, I didn't run the first time because I was worried about the election the second time. I won't be worried about it again when it comes up this year. I mean, I felt like, you know, as a person, I always try to do the right thing as your representative, and I will say you're a representative because I'm a county councilman. I'm from the Ridgeway district, and I'm proud to say that. But I don't want you to think, if you're sitting out there, that things just started 2 years ago or 4 years ago. The difference being, and you've heard me say this as you all have started to come over the last 8 to 9 months, the difference is we have you sitting in the audience right now. So it wasn't like things weren't happening 4 years ago or 8 years ago or 10 years ago. We just happened to have more people. And when you have that, which I will say, which is why I think government works well when you have people looking, is because of the transparency that comes out of that. So I think what you have now is you have a council that is looking deeper, that's paying more attention, that's being more involved because of the transparency that's now become out of what we're seeing. That doesn't mean I necessarily agree with everything that comes forth, but I would absolutely listen to everything that comes forth. But I do think from the opportunities that we've had over the last 8 months that we're a better council because of that. I truly do believe that. And I will say again, because the majority of you all here don't vote for me, but I will say again, thank you all for coming out, because I think that's what makes government work well, is when you have people involved. So continue to come out. Don't get discouraged. I feel like we started off tonight, we talked about economic development in this county. I'll commend Mr. Bright. I know he brings up things all the time. He's my neighbor. don't know if I necessarily agree with him all the time, but I would tell you what, he's trying to make a difference, and I appreciate that. He does his homework, he brings his facts, and many of you all do. I'll encourage Mr. Bell to continue to come back. We have our committee meetings. You're more than welcome. They're open. Come out. Come out. That's what it takes. I think this is a great county. I grew up here. I moved back here 15 years ago because I wanted to try to make a difference. And I think we're headed in that direction. I really do believe that. I think we started with Element, but I think it started 4 or 5 years ago. It just didn't happen what you see now. Things just don't happen. A lot of work goes into that. And I want to commend this county of having the foresight to even consider developing that industrial park, because I have some concerns that if we were going through the same climate as we've been going through 8 months ago, if we would have had the fortitude to go spend that money to start developing that park down there, to start attracting these businesses. So I'm happy that we did that, but now we're seeing the fruits start to come about now because of the work that happened 4 to 5 years ago. But I do think you'll continue to see this county move forward. I think we're better because of all the things that we've gone through, but I think we need to be accountable as well, but we'll get better from it. And you know, would I do some things differently as a representative? Probably so. But I've learned, and I think I'm a better person because of it. So again, thanks for coming out tonight.
Kelly, one more time.
One more time, go into executive session to receive legal advice.
Favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.